A very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Lord, and my special guest is the Chief Inspector of the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, Mr. Wayne Norval. Mr. Norval, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Now, I want to zero in on the work of the RSPCA. You have the veterinary clinic and you have a very successful surgery. Tell me about the clinic and the surgery.
Our surgery, in fact, we have two surgeries. One is bigger than the other. The work that is done there, there's a variety of things are done in surgery here. We have animals that come to us with broken legs, tumors, hematomas, dogs that go after their own tail. These are things that we have to deal with here on a daily basis. Some of the surgeries are more serious than others. We deal with PIOs, pyometers, and dogs now, animals now with diabetes. So the surgery is very busy, very, very busy.
And the veterinary clinic?
Yeah, and the veterinary clinic itself, because if I could make a contrast, when I came here 53 years ago, Saturdays were the days when most people would have brought the animals to have something done to it. We probably might have had the most is about 10 people a Saturday. Now, with this new building, 6 years old, I think it is, every single day, the car park is filled. Every single day, except on Sundays. But we do have vets do work on Sundays, emergency surgery and stuff like that on Sundays.
And you have an ambulance service as well?
Yes, the ambulance service is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've been doing that now for 47 years.
You also have a very successful adoption program.
Right, yes. We ask people to come and adopt animals because most of these animals, they need the love and care and respect, from someone who really cares for them and loves them. Animals, I find that adopted animals, to me, I might be wrong, but to me, adopted animals give their lives to the person that adopts them. They know that that person saved them. They know that. And they will do anything to make sure you're happy. They're always there for you. I'll give you I normally say this to people. You can leave home in a hurry in the morning and forget to give your dog food and water. And when you come home on evenings, the dog is there like this, wagging its tail. Wasn't interested in the food and water. It was interested in seeing you get back home safely. You could leave your wife early in the morning and forget to give her a kiss. And when you get home in the evening,
it's problem.
Your mouth push up in the air.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I always say that there's love with their animals. Yeah, and again, our adoption program is very healthy.
Do you have any
Very,
figures?
very healthy, yes. In 2021, we had as many as 824 adoptions.
That's a lot.
Yes. In 2022, between January and June, we had 391 adoptions. The amount of sheltered animals in our kennels now are 285. And we're looking for homes for them. I know this time it's kind of difficult. Just after the pandemic, in fact, during the pandemic, I had situations where people were
abandoning?
Not abandoning. People were taken to the facilities, but didn't have a chance to plan for the animals. So it ended up with us having to go and bring the animals here. The majority of people came back for the dogs when they came up, but there were some that didn't. So we had to find homes for them, right? So I know that during the pandemic, people got laid off from work also, and it was difficult for them to look after the animals when they now have to be looking after themselves after being sick. They have to be able to look after these animals, but they can't do it like they were doing it before. So some people actually surrender the dogs to us. So during that period of time, I think we were close to 300 dogs. And as I said, you see in the figures that we did a really good job of getting people to adopt these animals.
No, I know you mentioned in 2021, which was the height of COVID,
Right.
you had 800 plus adoptions.
Right.
How does that measure up to previous years, though?
In previous years, we did I can't give you the figures for
A ballpark range.
Yeah, but in the ballpark range, we would have been anywhere around this close to between 600 and 700 dogs.
So COVID, actually, I guess people were looking for, you were home all the time, you had
Right.
some more time on your
Right.
hands, perhaps, and you were looking to take care
Right.
of an animal.
The thing is, over the years, I realized that people get to realize that, if you're sick, your animal,
Yeah.
your pets know if you're sick. And they tend to gravitate even more to you just to let you know that someone is there. And a lot of people say to me after or COVID, well, not after, but the height of COVID, a lot of people say, Mr. Norwood, we're so happy that we actually adopted this dog, or we adopted this cat, because now we realize what you would have been saying over the years about animals, how they love animals, give back to the owners, So it has been a, give back type of thing, So we have been doing this work for a long time. So we know the type of rapport you have with people. You will find some hard heads to deal with sometimes, but it's just a matter of coaxing or letting people see that there's love at the end of this rainbow, right?
And just to be clear, it's not that simple to just select a dog or a cat. You really should do research on the breed and everything else.
Yes, I think before we would have these animals here, right? For adoption. And if you come in and you want a dog, you should have an idea of what type of dog you want, the size of dog, because that makes a big difference. If you have adequate space, things like that. Because you're now taking in another family member that you have to look after for until it dies, passes, right? So you have to be cognizant of the fact that you're taking the dog home to be comfortable, right? You're not taking it home to put it on a chain for the rest of its life. So we ask you to send photographs or a little video of the area the dog is going to be kept in. Now, I know we haven't reached the stage where everybody keeps their dog in the house, right? I myself, my dogs don't very seldom come in the house because they got a big ackee tree. They have the yard for themselves. They chase lizards. They do everything that they want to do. And inside the house is boring, right? And it might even be hotter inside the house than outside. So they gravitate more to outside, There are some people that believe that their dog must be in a sofa. Okay, don't have a problem with that. But don't try to make it look as though that the person that their dog is kept in the yard, that they don't love their dog as much as you do. You understand? Right? So we have to, weigh between the pros and cons when it comes to a situation like this. But we try to make sure that people who adopt our animals, when they do, now they have to, it's not like before when you would come and you ask for a dog and we say, okay, you take the dog. No, it's a procedure you have to go through. before you
You
can
do
move
screening.
with that dog. Screen. Yeah, before you move with that.
So do you have instances where after you've done your screening, you tell the prospective pet owner, no, you cannot adopt this
Yeah,
animal?
but if they don't have adequate space, if they don't have a fenced area to keep the dog in, because you must remember it's going to roam if it's not kept indoors. And the law states that your dog is supposed to be on your property, enclosed, is not supposed to be a problem to anyone outside on the government's premises.
And I want to deal specifically with the law a little later because there's a lot to get around there.
Right.
And neutering is still one of your more popular services in terms of the public coming in and bringing their pets to be neutered.
Yes, lots of people bring in the animals to get them neutered now. In fact, I think we might be booked up to probably September or October,
Wow.
around that time.
So do we still have the problem then of huge numbers of stray animals then?
No, the problem is not stray animals, it's stray-in animals.
Explain.
Okay. A stray dog is a dog that doesn't have an owner, never had an owner. A straying dog is a dog that has an owner that is allowed to stray.
Okay.
Right? So a stray dog is basically a scavenger, and we don't have many of them now. We don't have many of them.
What we call, or what we like to say, pot starvers.
Pot starvers.
Yeah.
We don't have many of them now, right? As I was saying, a stray dog is more of a scavenger. He looks for food for himself. A straying dog will pack with other dogs if the other dogs are out at night. That's how you get the problems with sheep being mauled and stuff like that.
And we'll come back to that as well. Dog licenses.
Um,
One of your favorite topics.
yes. I believe your dog should be licensed for more than one reason. Your dog you need to be able to identify your dog. I believe that you should be, like me, taking photographs of everything that is around you, and your dog is included, just in case your dog escapes. You need to be able to identify your dog. Let's say it escaped and I was called for it. You come down here, you say, somebody told me RSPCA pick up my dog. I would say, well, could you identify your dog? Do you have a photograph of your dog to prove that the dog is yours? Because we can't go and give away somebody that's his dog. Because there are mischievous people that might have come here before looking for a dog, saw that dog, ask the question whether or not, and then they will come in and say, well, it's my dog, right? So you have to be very careful. But if a dog is licensed, and I am stressing now on microchipping when it comes to licensing, because you can't remove a microchip from a dog. The tag, Barbadians are resourceful people. A Barbadian will have a dog that dies and he will take the tag off of that dog and put it on the other dog, right? So he's not only cheating the government, but he is making it difficult then for that dog, if that dog should escape. It's difficult. Another reason for microchipping for me is if your dog escapes and got struck on the street and you call, more than likely, what would have to happen is that all the vets would have to be using the same equipment. So for instance, if I'm using a reader to read the microchip, right? The dog is struck outside my gate, I call the RSPCA or I call the Animal Control Center and they come, they put the reader, the chip has on everything that you need to know about the dog and its owner.
Do we have facilities for microchipping?
Some vets do microchip animals, but that is private. That is not done through the government. That's private.
Okay. No, we've had several incidents over the years, unfortunately, of big dogs attacking persons. We had one up to a few months ago where someone was seriously injured. And in very few instances over the years, we've had persons who were mauled to death. your position on instances like these happening? Is it a situation where the pet owner did not have that animal properly secured?
And sometimes it varies because dogs get bored. Let's put it that way. Dogs get bored. They look for something to do. If you do not spend that time exercising your dog, they tend to look for things to do on their own. If they could find the smallest hole, they will dig and dig and dig until they get on the defense. But one dog on the street more than likely will not attack a person. No. You don't have a dog. You told me that.
No, I
But
don't.
anybody that has a dog, when your dog sees a person at the gate, it will run to a distance and then it will look back. It is looking back for
Support?
support. Right? Now, if you, the owner, keeps coming to the gate, the dog will eventually go directly to the gate. Right? Now, use that with a dog outside. If your dog escapes, it's one dog and it goes outside. More than likely, the scent that he's picking up is usually from other dogs. He's not really interested in a human being. He's interested in, he pick up these scents and these scents are, exciting and stuff like that. Yeah. If there are 2 dogs or 3 dogs, and one of those dogs, there's something on that person that triggers the dog, and one of the dogs decide or barks at this person, then he has support. The other 2 dogs, because they're coming too, right? It is useless telling the person, don't run.
It's a natural reflex.
It is something natural. The person will want to get out of the way. You want to get somewhere where you could keep the dogs away from you. But unfortunately, if you run and you fall, that's it. Pack instinct comes in and they're going to come on you. Right? And this kicking and screaming, dogs pick up like 25,000 vibrations in a split second. Screaming it puts the dog into a frenzy.
They're triggered by fear.
Yeah. And they just, go after you. But in situations where what annoys me is if your dog is allowed to be outside constantly. If you're told your dog escapes, and you know your dog escapes, well, do something to make sure your dog doesn't escape. Because if it has bitten someone before, it might not have been a severe bite, but the second time, more than likely, it will be. So, that owner has, and again, the person has to be in tune with animals. They have to be in tune. If you're in tune with your animal, more than likely, if you're accustomed to walking your dog on the street and accustomed to seeing people, strangers, it more than likely a total stranger, if the dog escapes, will not trigger that dog. But the things that scent could trigger a dog. Walking with a limp could trigger a dog. Yes. Hair could trigger a dog. Hair in the sense of my dog lives with me. My head is bald. Mm-hmm. It's accustomed seeing my wife. She has locks. But there's only 2 of us, right? But that is what my dogs are accustomed. That's what a human being looks like to my dogs. Now, if, for instance, a guy might have locks, but his locks might not look like my wife's locks. His locks might be big and, and the dog, that doesn't look like a human being to me. Doesn't look like somebody that I shouldn't be afraid of. So that could trigger a dog also.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we also have the issue of dogs, and you referenced it earlier, killing livestock, sheep especially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is where the importance of dog licenses come in, because when you're trying to track the owner, sometimes the farmer might say, well, these dogs belong to so and so and so and so, but that person is not claiming responsibility, and you can't track the dog to them.
Dog is not licensed. You see, again, a stray dog can't pull down a ram. Impossible. No, it's not strong enough. You would see every mauling that I went to, I think I went 34 sheep at one time. And if you look at every one of those sheep, they were bitten on the leg, hamstring, the udder, the ears, probably the mouth. That's when you try to butt the dog, to protect themselves. But because these dogs are packed, and because they're not hungry, so they don't ever eat anything from the sheep. What happens is that the sheep will run. They're afraid they will run. And what they will do is bundle. And when they bundle, whoever is underneath will suffocate. Right? That's what happens. And then the dog there's no more chase. The excitement is finished. And they go head back home. Right? With the mouth wiped clean and the owner probably sitting on the step. And the owner says, oh, you're such a nice fella. You were here the whole night. But that dog could probably do 14 miles in that night.
Is that something you're still seeing high incidence of, though? Livestock attacks?
No. I'm not. No, I haven't had many livestock cases recently. I'm not saying that there weren't some. I remember that a lady had lost a number of turkeys. You might have an instance where one or two sheep might have been attacked, but I haven't had many recently. My fear, though, is the size dogs that people are importing. That's my fear. Because you have to be a dog handler, a person that knows dogs to deal with some of these breeds that I see being imported in Barbados. These dogs are massive and they're tall. So the average 5-foot fence wouldn't hold those dogs.
So tell me about these breeds.
There's the Kango now. There's the Napoleon Mastiff. There's the Cane Corso. They're beautiful dogs. Not two ways about it. They're beautiful dogs. But most of these dogs were bred to protect livestock. And they're if not trained properly, that's why I'm saying that the majority of people that I see with them
are not trained to handle them.
They're not trained to handle those dogs. They're not. I saw a young lady the other day with a Cane Corso puppy. And that dog was tugging her all over the place. And it's a puppy at that stage. That dog is not being taught. It's not being socialized. So what is going to happen is that when she can't control it anymore, probably put it on a chain and just give it food and water because she can't control it anymore. So I believe that if you're going to acquire it boils down to the fact that the neighbor sees someone with a dog, it looks nice, and they want one. But they don't know what that neighbor has done so that they could control their dog. And they run themselves in trouble all the time.
Mr. Norval, I still want to come back and discuss this topic about the breeds of dogs. So stay with us. You're watching One on One.
Tell me who a man spends his time with, and I'll tell you the type of man he is. Isn't it true that people become like the company they keep? I'm Chris Hurdle, clinical psychologist and certified life coach. Where do you spend most of your time? What is your emotional space like? Do you find yourself most often among people who are negative, naysayers, doom and gloom, or fearmongers? Or do you find yourself mostly among people who are positive, optimistic, calm, collected, and reassuring, who exude confidence? What is your emotional space like? Be intentional. You are the pilot of your life.
And welcome back. We're talking to the Chief Inspector of the RSPCA here in Barbados, Mr. Wayne Norval. Mr. Norval, just before the break, we were discussing some of the breeds you're concerned about. Now, you mentioned several, but you didn't mention pit bulls.
Right now, the thing is that Barbadians, like, they're fashionable. Let me put it that way. There aren't that many pit bulls as there were before.
They've gone out of style then.
Gone out of style. Or going out of style. It's only the true pit bull lovers that you will see with them. There are still ones that fight them. There's still those ones out there. But those ones that actually fight, those ones are kept very close because they make money for these guys. They're not going to just let them roam on the street or stuff like that. So you really don't have to worry too much about them now. But it's the ones now that more and more people, you have these, they call them bullies, American pit bulls. You have those. I find that they're quite docile dogs to deal with. But it is when you start training them because that instinct comes back.
You mentioned dog fighting. Is that still a big practice?
It is a big practice in Barbados, but it's underground now. I guess over the years, my lobbying and stuff like that, they get to realize that it isn't as easy to get rid of Mr. Norval as they thought.
And cockfighting.
Yeah. Same thing. During last year and this year, during the peak of COVID with all the shutdowns and stuff like that, I still called by the police to recover a number of cocks from 3 different venues, 3 different times.
You police?
And the police called, yeah. Police would call, I would normally go to gather the cocks that were injured and stuff like that.
And since we're on this topic, because obviously that leads to abuse of the animals, the RSPCA is also involved in rescuing animals from abusive situations.
Yeah.
Where are we in terms of animal abuse, in terms of stats?
There are various types of abuse.
Yes.
Right? When you refuse to leave clean, fresh water for your dog, especially in a place like Barbados that's so hot, you refuse to feed your dog properly. You refuse to exercise your dog. These are the things that you need, that your dog needs. Now, a person would say, I have 5 acres of land, so the dog could run. But a dog is not going to get up and go and exercise on its own. It's not going to do it. If a dog could sleep all day, he would sleep all day. It's not going to do it. So exercise is very important. Having your dog free of internal and external parasites, having your dog vaccinated, having these things done very early in a dog's life makes a big difference, because your dog is protected more than the dog that didn't have these things done. And some people, what I used to have before were a lot of people who would have their dogs tied and refuse to loosen the collar. So then the collar would start cutting into the dog's neck. I think it's the most cruel thing I've ever seen. Because every time that dog winks, that dog is in pain. It doesn't have to move the head. It only has to wink, and it's in pain. I was told when I first came here, I am the eye to the RSPCA. So my job was to make sure people look after the animals, make sure people update with the medicals, make sure that people, see their dogs as part of the family and not just something that you throw scraps at. But I must say, there has been a great improvement in the way people treat animals now. We still have people out there who needs educating. And I always say the people that know are the people that should be educating these people. Do not look down on them. Don't berate them. Don't belittle them. You know, have a amicable conversation with the person. Don't start with, you dog look bony and bad. You don't look after the dog. Don't start with that. That's a negative. Try to start with a positive. Try to get that person to understand that the same way they see me walking my dog and I feel so comfortable and proud, they could do the same thing. That's what you need to do. You have to try to get away from, this anger of, I am a better dog owner than you. No.
But do you see instances of actual physical abuse? And I'm not talking about being left out in the sun, you're tied up all the time. I'm talking about beating these
No,
animals.
I've had complaints, but you see, there's a problem there because a neighbor could call me and say the dog owner beats the dog. I am not there. It is their word again. If I go and ask you, want to say no. I don't really have anything to work off of because, okay, if I say the owner, all right, let me take the dog and examine it.
Mm-hmm.
More than likely, if he beats the dog, he's going to tell me no.
But can you tell from the injuries?
Right. Well, very seldom. But the thing is that they don't have like a broken leg or anything like that. You would have to actually examine that dog properly. If X-rays probably would be one way of doing it because it might not have an actual break. It might have a fracture. It's like fracture or something like that. It might have soft tissue injury, right? But I would ask the person, please let me take the dog just to make sure that I don't have to come back here for a complaint again. Now, there are also some people who can be rather malicious. And they have a problem with the neighbor and, they will find a way to get at the neighbor. I have complaints like that also. So you have to deal with that.
That's a waste of resources.
It is, but you still have to go.
Investigate the case.
You still have to go, you still have to investigate. So
after more than 5 decades dealing with animals, what is perhaps the worst case of abuse you have seen?
I would go for the chain in the neck, an embedded chain in the dog's neck.
You mentioned people being mischievous or malicious. Do you get acts of poisoning?
Yeah, we have had acts of poison. We have had that. Yeah, but the problem is that to prove it, you would have to have some of the substance. I mean, if a postmortem is done, you could have something. Then you would have to send it to the government lab to be checked and stuff like that. Sometimes the owners probably might want that. Others, would say, well, because obviously there's something that would have to be paid for.
Since we're dealing with mischievous people, let's switch to mischievous animals. Monkeys. Your favorite to talk about.
I love monkeys. I love them. The problem is we have wasted too much time in dealing with the monkey problem. In 1987, I wrote
It's 35 years
a
ago.
paper about monkeys and how I felt we could deal with the problem. But I don't know, that length of time, I don't think there were that many people in Barbados who were interested in that problem at that time. They would say, well, at that time, we didn't have the amount of houses now in the areas where monkeys used to traverse for generations. We didn't have that. People say to me, there are more monkeys now than before. And I disagree.
We've encroached on their terrain.
I disagree because monkeys use different routes to go and forage. Now, you might probably never saw a monkey in your district again.
Oh, many times.
Right?
Yes.
Right? No, not meaning you personally.
Okay.
I'm talking about a person might not have seen a monkey. in their life. But because there's no food for now there's 4 seasons, where they rate the area of every tree, that more than 4 or 5 troops used to live down there. The persons in look, you're near by the university, that first road there by university. Those people started to see monkeys because now the monkeys have to find somewhere to live. You understand? So they go up there now. So they will say, well, I never see monkeys here before. Where did all these monkeys come from? Right? But my thing is this. You might not want to think this, but we have had a research center, a primate research center in Barbados now for the length of time it was at the RSPCA. I want to know, why is it that we never had a proper monkey control program through the wildlife reserve? That is my question.
But no,
Because
do you think the situation is out of hand?
it is out of hand because now you don't have any form of control at all. I do not believe in a bounty. Why? Is because a person wants the tail to take to the Ministry of Agriculture. He is not interested if that monkey is alive or dead once he gets the tail. I have photographs of 2 monkeys that someone shot. This is years ago when Liz Thompson was the Minister of Environment. And 2 tourists were passing, going from Worthing to Big B. And they saw these 2 monkeys. They weren't dead, the tails were off. But these monkeys' faces were shattered by the gunshot. And they were still alive. I had to euthanize them. And people don't understand that euthanizing an animal is not an easy thing. My biggest fear is when I hear I have to shoot a horse. The most beautiful animal you could ever come across. And when I have to do that, I can't eat, I can't sleep until it's finished. So it's not easy being an inspector. It's not.
And on the topic of euthanization, you do have to do that here at the RSPCA to make space.
Let's be real. At some point in time, you have to say, look, there's no way, with not having help from the government, just basically working off of what we make here and donations, at some point in time, you have to deal with that situation.
But how do you make that decision and put down a perfectly healthy animal?
It is difficult. I would have to say that. It is very, very difficult. We have those down there now that over 2 years that we've had. Over 2 years. You see, the thing is, you might have a dog that was here for 2 years. And you decide, well, there's no way that 2 years that you shouldn't find another one. And the next morning, somebody walks in and wants the dog. You understand? So we have had situations here where our handlers were, up in arms because we have to do it. We had to do it. It is something. If you think about big countries, they put away millions of dogs. That is why we stress the neutering animals. That's why we stress that. We stress on that. Spaying and neutering. Because if we do that, we can reduce the population of dogs. And if we have people adopting dogs and not importing dogs, then we would have a better handle on it.
Where are we in terms of abandonment now? I know you mentioned that owners they had COVID, they had to be isolated, they might have been in a facility, so they didn't have a choice. That's a different type of
Right.
abandonment. That was not purposely done. Do you see a lot of abandonment?
There are still people that will abandon the dog. There are places in Barbados that when you see a dog, it's an abandoned dog. The places in Barbados, people know these places and they will take the dog. I mean, after all these years, and people know that the RSPCA is here, the Animal Control Center is there. There are sanctuaries, and stuff there.
Several.
I still find it impossible to believe that somebody would still take a dog. And the problem is that this dog is not accustomed to foraging for itself. It has to learn. It obviously is not road smart, So there's so many things that could happen to an abandoned dog. They could fall into a well because they don't know the terrain. There's so many things. And this is a dog that this person might have had for 5 years. So how do you just, forget that that animal is out there suffering because of what you did?
And I know you keep mentioning dogs, but in recent years, you have been very vocal about the abandonment of horses.
Yes, well, I had a big fight on my hand for quite a few years with horses. But I must say that now in itself has seemed to, I don't know if it was the fact that people were embarrassed when, the names were called, stuff like that. But, right now, I do not have the problem that I used to have before. There are some cases where a person would call about a horse that was tied out a whole day without food and water. Unfortunately, some of these people believe that if I give the horse water in the morning, it's okay till the evening. The horse will drink like 15 gallons of water a day, and a horse will eat almost all day, right? So when you have a person just having a horse, tying it out for a whole day without giving it water, they give it water in the morning, give it water in the evening, but during the course of the day. The unfortunate thing too is that even if you leave a large amount of water for the horse, what will happen is the sun will get hot. That water is going to get hot and the horse is not going to drink it. So the owner could say, well, I left water. But I now have to explain to him the reason why the horse is not drinking water, because the water is hot.
What power does the RSPCA have in terms of taking legal action against abusers?
Well, we still have to go through the police to do that. We still have to do that. Years ago it was a problem, but today I can easily say that the police are a phone call away, the fire service a phone call away, the electric company a phone call away, right now. But in the early days it wasn't like that. And my biggest problem is the court. If you have so many cases pertaining to human beings with all these backlogs, you would have to have a very, very humane prosecutor to bring a case with an animal. I have had luck, I could call it luck. I've done it about 4 times in my career. About 4 times. But imagine I am the only person that goes out for the RSPCA. And to waste 20 minutes it's a long time.
Yeah.
Now, you're asking me to come to court at 9 o'clock. I have to listen to every case. And then the magistrate says, I will adjourn this case till next month. That's an entire morning that I've wasted. I could have been saving lives. You understand? So that is one of my biggest obstacles. But just don't take it from me. The CCJ said it too.
And I want to go back to something you said, because you said you work with the police, you work with the Barbados Southern Power Company Limited and the fire service, because you're also involved in rescue.
Rescuing, yeah. Mm. Yeah, I do a lot of rescuing. Most times, wells. Barbados is littered with wells. You see, In cane fields always had wells because it used to drain the water off from the canes during the season when right when you got too much rain, it drained it off. Some of the plantations have the wells properly maintained. Others don't. Thing is that a lot of these plantations are going into housing. So there are wells that people don't know around. And that is one of the biggest problems I'm faced with.
And then the animals obviously
Yes,
get
and then animals get trapped in them. And, like sometimes it is the animal not knowing the terrain, but sometimes it is a way of disposing of them. And that is a serious thing.
Now, usually when we see Mr. Norval in the news, is always something negative. But off camera, you were telling me that we have come quite a way in terms of caring for our animals to the extent, and you hinted at it earlier, that they're very domesticated. Sometimes cats don't even know how to hunt anymore
It is
because they
true.
don't have to.
It is true. They don't know to get out of the trees anymore.
And that's where you have to
Yeah.
go to rescue them.
I mean, I never used to have to rescue cats before. But today now, because cats are, as you said, so domesticated, which I'm very happy about, because it means that I haven't wasted all my years. Somebody still heard and took action. But we have come we have come a long way from where we were when I started. I remember we got to the supermarket. They were the only people that had anything to do with pets. And the shelf was about this way. They would have Bob Martin and, those type of things that we used to hear about years ago. And when I go in the supermarket now, and I see
An aisle.
two aisles with dog food, both soft and dry. I'm saying to myself, but, we've come a long way. But we must deal with the negatives. We still need to deal with the negatives. And what I'm saying is that I need people to realize that when you see a person with their dog or their cat or their sheep or their pig or their horse, that person is happy. They're happy because there's love constantly from those animals.
And where are we in terms of diseases with pets, in terms of what the RSPCA would see?
Usually, it's persons who don't have their dogs vaccinated. So you will see parvovirus, leptospirosis. That is not as popular as parvovirus. The occasional case we might have tetanus. We have a sheep, that. What happens is that when a person ties a sheep, because the sheep has a split hoof, the rope would go through the hoof and it would just make an abrasion, right? But what happens is the tetanus germ could get in there and then the sheep contacts tetanus. Then the same rope burn could infect the hoof. You would not realize it until it is hurting so badly that the animal starts to limp. But by that time, more than likely, that entire hoof has rotten. In black belly sheep, I've seen hoofs that actually dropped off. But we're talking about an animal that, to me, it is the hardest animal I've ever come across, a black belly sheep. Things that I've seen. I remember we had a sheep here that I brought in, got struck. And we brought it in and, treated it and everything. And we just saw the side of this sheep was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We thought it was a tumor at first. And then what had happened is that the lamb, in the accident, the lamb was knocked out of the womb. So the lamb was actually growing on the side. And it was two beautiful lambs.
And everybody
And
survived?
everybody was good. Because
Okay.
we did a cesarean to remove them and everybody was good.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm not sure if it is public knowledge as yet, but after this evening, I'm sure the public of Barbados will know. After 53 years, you are preparing for retirement in less than a year.
Yeah. Mhm.
After dedicating your life to rescuing, taking care of, advocating for the rights of animals, where are we in Barbados in terms of taking care of animals?
I think we are on the right path now. We're on the right track now. I think so. It is, if we have all the agencies that are supposed to be partnering with the RSPCA, if we have everybody work, if we have a well-oiled engine going, we need to have the animal control center functioning as it should, right? I have always felt that the animal control center could be self-sufficient. I've always felt so. If it was managed the way it's supposed to be managed, right? If we have them, we have the other sanctuaries out there that they do a wonderful job also, right? But people need to work together. This should not be seen as we do more than you. It shouldn't be like that. It should be everybody working together along with the laws being policed properly. If we could get that done, we would be on our way because people have already started to look after the animals. There's all the proof is out there.
No regrets.
Working?
Do you have any regrets in terms of you've not been able to achieve a particular goal?
Yes. I felt by now we should be further. I felt so. I feel so strongly. We should have been further. But because we didn't get the type of response from the powers that be, I think that is why we are here. But we are moving on.
And Mr. Norwell, thank you so much for your many years of service. And thank you for sitting and chatting with us this evening.
Thank you very much.
You're most
Thanks
welcome.
for having me.
That was the Chief Inspector of the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals here in Barbados, Mr. Wayne Norville. I'm Lisa Lord. You are watching One on One. Have yourself a wonderful evening.